Hello friends, welcome to my channel, Tar Heel Monsters. What wouldn't you give for a handsome military man who wants to take care of you and give you the world? Well, for this female bodybuilder in my home state of North Carolina, that's not enough. That's the story of Lateisha Jandreau. You gotta watch it to the end and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. Mr. Bob, take it away.
My pleasure, Ms. Lola. "51-year-old Paul Jandreau was a retired naval officer employed at BAE Systems, a defense contractor based in Norfolk, Virginia. When he didn't show up for work Wednesday morning, June 30th, 2010, his co-workers repeatedly phoned him. Paul was always punctual and reliable, so when he didn't answer their calls, a concerned co-worker phoned the Currituck County Sheriff's Department and requested a welfare check at the Jandreau residence. At approximately 7:44 a.m., a deputy responded to 100 Armstead Court to perform the welfare check. Paul's truck was in the driveway, but no one answered the door. The deputy looked around the house and through some windows. She noticed 2 cars in the garage, but did not see any movement inside the house. A neighbor told the deputy that whenever Paul went anywhere, he drove that truck. The deputy contacted Paul's wife, Lateisha Jandreau, at her place of employment at Blackwater Security, another defense contractor in Virginia, and requested that his wife meet her at the Jandreau residence. Lateisha Jandreau met the deputy 45 minutes after speaking with her on the phone. She allowed her to enter the house and look around. When asked where Paul was, she told the deputy that she and Paul lived together but led separate lives. They only communicated by text and rarely saw each other. Paul was probably off somewhere with his girlfriend. The officer found nothing suspicious and left the residence, but returned later that afternoon to see if Paul was back at home. His 2005 GMC Sierra pickup truck was still in the driveway, but no one answered the door. She noted with concern that windows in the house that had previously been uncovered were now covered with tin foil. 29-year-old Lateisha Askew met 42-year-old Paul Jandreau in 2002. Both were physical fitness enthusiasts dedicated to working out at the gym regularly. Lateisha was a professional bodybuilder. She had won the National American Sports Federation's North Carolina Bodybuilding Championship a few years before meeting Paul. Paul was soon to retire from the Navy with a ranking of Master Chief Sergeant. Because he was retiring at such an early age, he was eager to parlay his experience into a lucrative second career at BAE. Lateisha and Paul were in the same kickboxing class when they were paired together to spar. He was so attracted to her well-toned, muscular body that he didn't seem to care that she won the match. Lateisha was born in a small town in Hertford County, North Carolina. Although she had been a track and field star in high school and excelled in athletics, she failed to attend college. Despite never receiving an academic degree, she was described by those who knew her as smart, hardworking, and intelligent. Apparently, those were the attributes that led to great jobs for her in Raleigh, New York, and finally Virginia, where she became a defense contractor for Blackwater Security Company. Lateisha didn't have the same affinity for Paul as he had for her, but she enjoyed working out with him and going on occasional dates. Paul showered her with gifts and lots of attention until he finally won her over. The relationship quickly progressed from dating to marriage on June 28, 2003. Lateisha moved into Paul's huge, beautiful home. From the start, Paul's friends didn't see the compatibility with the couple. He was outgoing. She was introverted. Despite their differences, they seemed to have a happy marriage until Lateisha miscarried twin babies. The loss took a profound effect on her and Paul's marriage that never recovered. The day after Paul went missing, his friends and neighbors were alarmed by his sudden disappearance. Their concerns grew into suspicions as they distributed missing person flyers to people in the streets. A close friend and neighbor of Paul's began vigilant surveillance on the Jandreau house. Why was there foil on the windows? Where was Lateisha? More importantly, where was Paul? This was not typical behavior for him at all. Later that day, Paul's neighbor saw Lateisha and her brother loading furniture into Paul's pickup truck. He waited for her to go inside, then he quickly walked over and knocked for several minutes. When the door finally crept open, Lateisha stood in darkness. She was wearing a long white robe and a white ball cap pulled down on her face. "Where is Paul?" He looked past her and saw windows covered with wrapping paper. The pungent smell of bleach permeated the air. "I have no idea where he is." She closed the door slowly, then locked it. A sheriff's car pulled into the Jandreau driveway shortly after the neighbor left. Paul's truck was backed up to the front door with furniture in the back. The detective spoke with Lateisha. "Have you heard from your husband?" Again, she told him no. The last time she talked to him was Tuesday, the day before he went missing. She reiterated her previous statement that she and her husband lived separate lives. He was probably somewhere with his girlfriend. The detective asked the name of the girlfriend. Any information about the woman would be helpful. Lateisha didn't know her name. She had glimpsed her once with Paul but wouldn't recognize her if she saw her again. At approximately 2:30 that afternoon, police received information that Paul's cell phone was hitting off a tower in Elizabeth City, a town about 30 minutes away. The phone was found in the parking lot of a school near a construction site. Detectives phoned Lateisha and arranged to meet at her residence the next day at 5:30 in the evening. She wasn't told about the phone being found. The next day, Friday, July 2nd, law enforcement arrived promptly at 5:30 and saw a note taped near the door saying Lateisha had walked to River's Edge, an adjacent neighborhood. Officers tried calling her cell phone and got no answer. They searched River's Edge but failed to locate her. While they were conducting the search, a detective received information from a Chesapeake, Virginia 911 dispatcher that Lateisha Jandreau had just called, wondering why officers were at her residence. The Virginia 911 dispatcher transferred the call to the Currituck 911 center. Lateisha informed the dispatcher that she was in Chesapeake, Virginia, and would not be home until the following day. The Currituck 911 dispatcher determined that the call was originating from inside the Jandreau residence and not from Chesapeake. This was confirmed by a neighbor who told detectives that Lateisha was home. The neighbor further informed police that Paul had told him a month before that he was going to file for divorce, that he had asked Lateisha to move out. A detective from the sheriff's office, accompanied by deputies, returned to the Jandreau residence just after midnight on Saturday, July 3rd, to execute a search warrant. When no one responded to their knocks, the officers forced entry through a door that opened into a messy garage with a pile of garbage pushed into a corner. The law enforcement team continued into the house, sweeping to secure the residence. In the kitchen, they discovered duct tape, foil, caulking, plastic wrap, and paintbrushes, among other items. The hardwood floor in the primary bedroom looked like it had been scrubbed. An area of carpet had been ripped up. There were bloodstains on a large rug in the master bedroom and bullet holes in a wall that had been filled with caulk. Spent bullets were recovered from the crime scene. The officers found Lateisha hiding in the back of a closet in the master bedroom, covered by a blanket and clothes. Her eyes were closed, but she was clearly breathing. Deputies secured her and served the warrant. Officers performed a more thorough search of the residence and found Paul's body inside a large tote under the pile of trash they noticed when they first entered the garage. He was wrapped in plastic, duct taped and stuffed into the tote. An autopsy would later reveal that he had been shot 5 times. Once each in the chest, abdomen, thigh, hand, and neck. A wound to his neck appeared to have been inflicted from close range. The autopsy further revealed that Paul Jandreau had suffered approximately a dozen lacerations to his head, consistent with being struck by a blunt hard object such as a pistol. A search of the 2 automobiles in the driveway resulted in the recovery of a .45 caliber handgun stuffed inside a small black bag under the rear passenger seat. The magazine in the handgun was empty. 2 additional magazines recovered from a bag contained live rounds. A forensics firearms examiner would state that the gun recovered from the scene was the murder weapon. A search of the truck in the driveway resulted in the recovery of a Lowe's receipt dated Thursday, July 1st, 2010. The receipt was evidence of the purchase of a 50-gallon tote on the day after the murder. Despite the overwhelming evidence police had against her, Lateisha adamantly denied killing her husband and putting him in the tote bin. Her first incredulous lie was that a couple of thugs in Elizabeth City had overheard her saying how mean Paul was to her. They offered to beat him up to teach him a lesson. She alleged that they must have gone too far and killed him. When detectives showed her surveillance footage of her buying a large tote in Lowe's the day after Paul disappeared, she dealt them the self-defense card. She was afraid for her life because Paul threatened to kill her if she didn't move out of their house. According to Lateisha, the hostility between them began in early June 2010. Paul just up and announced that he wanted her out by the end of the month. After she told him that she was not leaving, their exchanges became volatile from that point on, with Paul being the aggressor. Lateisha claimed that she and Paul argued on Tuesday because she hadn't moved out of the house. By the evening, he was furious because the next day, Wednesday, June 30th, was the deadline for her to be out. When she said she wasn't leaving, he taunted her all day with threats of violence. Fearing for her safety, she went to bed early and locked herself in her room. At about 3 a.m., she awoke to Paul banging on her bedroom door. He was yelling, demanding she leave the house right then, or he was going to kill her. The last thing she remembered was him kicking in the door, her grabbing her gun, then aiming. She didn't remember shooting him, putting his body in the tote, putting foil on the windows, or cleaning up. Lateisha Jandrew's trial began on September 24, 2012, in the criminal session of Currituck County Superior Court. Paul's family, friends, and neighbors who loved and missed him dearly testified that Paul was unhappy in the marriage because Lateisha was cold and cruel to him. All he wanted was his house back so that he could live in peace. His attorney told the jury that Paul wanted a divorce. A co-worker said Paul confided to him that he had awakened in the middle of the night and saw Lateisha crawling around in the room. After that, he started sleeping with his door locked, afraid of what she might do to harm him. Lateisha testified in her own behalf. The jury did not believe her story of self-defense. They deliberated for about 2 hours on September 28th and returned a verdict on the same day. Lateisha became comfortable living a lifestyle of indulgence that she had no intention of giving up. Her solution for keeping Paul Jandrew's big, beautiful house was to brutally murder him, then tell outlandish lies to try to dodge justice. A professional bodybuilder, she undoubtedly intimidated Paul and in the end overpowered him. Lateisha Askew Jandreau was convicted of first-degree murder and larceny of a firearm. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. She appealed to the Court of Appeals of North Carolina. The verdict was upheld. According to official records, this 53-year-old Tar Heel monster is currently incarcerated at Anson Correctional Institution in Polkton, North Carolina. Her earliest release date is death.